Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. Last night, the College Football Playoff Committee released their fourth set of rankings, and there really weren't many changes after a fairly uneventful Week 12. But we're setting up for a thrilling Week 13. We have 4 ranked versus ranked matchups this week, and a lot of implications that will affect the playoff and conference championship games. So we're going to break it down real quick, see if we agree with the committee's selections, even though there weren't that many changes, and break down some of the games that are coming up this weekend, Thursday through Saturday, starting with the Egg Bowl on Thursday, and then, of course, the biggest game Saturday afternoon between Alabama and Auburn. So, we're going to break them down real quick. If the playoffs were to happen today, nothing has changed. It would still be Oklahoma versus Alabama, and then Clemson versus Miami. Now, the committee did change Clemson and Miami here. Clemson was second last week, and Miami is now number 2 team in the country. And I do agree with that. I thought that should have happened last week after Miami killed Notre Dame. But they decided not to. Clemson, keep in mind, still has that one loss to Syracuse, which is looking pretty bad right now. I'm surprised. I mean, they still deserve to be in the top 4. But Syracuse, that's going to finish with a losing record no matter what. Looking bad for Clemson. Miami, of course, ended up beating them earlier on in the season. And Miami, despite struggling against Virginia, was able to jump Clemson, probably because Clemson was playing the Citadel, an FCS school, and Miami definitely deserved to jump them there. So that's going to set up for a very nice ACC championship game, assuming they don't get upset, either of these teams get upset this following week. Miami has to go on the road and play Pittsburgh. Clemson has to go on the road and face South Carolina, who's 24th, just jumped into the rankings at 8-3 under Will Muschamp. It's been a great season for the Gamecocks, and it would be awesome if they could top it off with a win over their rival against Clemson at home. So overall, though, the top 10 did not change except for the switch up here between 2 and 3. And I agree with that. And we're setting up for a very nice game this weekend between Alabama and Auburn. Winner of that, as you all know, goes to the SEC, wins the SEC West, goes to the SEC championship game, and will play number 7 Georgia, assuming they don't lose on the road to Georgia Tech. So top 10 didn't change. The committee continued to keep USC here at 11th, which a couple people were outraged by that. But I don't know. I agree that they should still stick at 11th. I mean, the teams above them, they got killed by Notre Dame, so if they're not 11th, maybe they should be 9th or 10th. But they're keeping Ohio State in there. They have their game against Michigan. Of course, that's always going to be big. It's at Michigan. They're playing the Wolverines at the Big House. You know that's always going to be a good game. Michigan should give them a fight. But USC being a 2-loss team here, some are saying they should be able to compete, especially now they're going to the Pac-12 championship game, and they'll face Washington State, Washington, or Stanford. But I don't think they should be getting in. If there's a 2-loss team that should get in that's not Auburn, it would have to be Ohio State. As much as I hate to say that, despite their horrible loss to Iowa, which should be looking a lot worse right now considering Iowa is sitting at 6-5, Ohio State still has a chance if they beat Michigan to play Wisconsin for the Big Ten championship game. And if they win that, they could very well make the top 4 because we're guaranteed a loss from Miami or Clemson, Alabama, or Auburn, maybe. I mean, they're losing. One of them's losing this Saturday, and then you're guaranteed the winner of that to play Georgia, and Georgia versus the winner of that's going to lose. So Ohio State has room to slip in, but then could you make a case for Notre Dame? They don't have a conference championship game, but can Notre Dame potentially slip into the top 4 when these teams lose? I mean, we'll have to wait and find out, but that's something the committee's really going to have to decide on and really think hard about of whether these 2-loss teams like Notre Dame or Ohio State could slip into the top 4 when the teams above them start losing. And that's what's going to throw the committee into chaos and throw a lot of controversy in there. So another thing we want to look at real quick is we've got the group of 5 teams. Remember, I've said the highest-ranked conference champion will make a New Year's Six Bowl. Of course, that title still goes to Central Florida right now, sitting at 15th. They're still undefeated. Remember, they did beat Memphis early on in the season. That's why Memphis, despite the 1 loss to UCF, is sitting at 20th. But they could meet again in the conference championship game. But UCF first has to get past Charlie Strong and South Florida on Friday afternoon. That's going to be a huge game. Luckily, they have the home field advantage in that one. But it's going to be a really tough game if they can get that. More than likely, they'll play Memphis, and the winner of that goes to the New Year's Six Bowl. Barring any other losses, I think Boise State, sitting at 23rd, is out of contention right now because I think the winner of that conference championship game between Central Florida and Michigan, assuming they make it, will make the New Year's Six Bowl. And now we've also got a couple of fun ranked versus ranked matchups. Alabama, Auburn, as we all know, the big one. We have Notre Dame going on the road to Stanford. And that was another point I wanted to make, was if Notre Dame goes on the road and defeats a good Stanford team sitting at 21st, could you make a case for them to maybe make a couple jumps here? Because we know Auburn or Alabama is going to lose. We know Miami or Clemson is going to lose. Georgia could lose in the SEC championship game. Wisconsin could lose to Ohio State. So could Notre Dame potentially slip in there without having to play a conference championship game? They're only a 2-loss team. One of their losses coming to Georgia, so not a horrible loss there. So that's something we've got to keep in mind as we go on. And that's, these rankings down here at the bottom, people don't tend to care about too much, maybe 13th and below. But they play a huge factor for these teams that are ranked in the top 10 or maybe the top 6 that are in contention for making the top 4. Because, for example, Clemson defeated North Carolina State a couple weeks ago on the road, and that was a very solid win. But then North Carolina State dropped a game to Wake Forest this past weekend. They're out of the rankings, so that win's not looking as good anymore. But if Notre Dame can get a win over Stanford, who's still ranked, those wins start to look better. Alabama's got wins over Mississippi State and LSU. Granted, they aren't ranked very high. Mississippi State sitting at 14th, but those are still solid wins against ranked opponents that the committee deemed to be good enough to be ranked in the top 25. So even if they are ranked, 20th to 25th or maybe in the top 15, not in contention for the playoff, those teams that are ranked help the teams that are ranked in the top 6 or 7 look a lot better. So that is something to keep in mind, and that's why these teams ranked on this side right here still matter despite they're out of contention for the college football playoff. Oklahoma State, as we all saw, dropped from 13th to 19th after their loss, upset loss to Kansas State at home. They were still in contention technically for the Big 12 championship game. Weren't able to pull that one out against Kansas State. They're definitely out. Big 12 championship game shaping up to be Oklahoma-TCU. Both of those teams should take care of business this Saturday. TCU playing Baylor and Oklahoma facing West Virginia without their starting quarterback, Will Grier. So both of them should take care of business. Huge Big 12 championship game there. Overall, though, I agree with the rankings selections for the most part. I agree that Miami should jump Clemson, and after a very uneventful Week 12, like I said, there weren't many changes to be made. A couple new teams slipped back into the rankings here, South Carolina, Virginia Tech making it back into the top 25. But overall, not many major changes here. We're going to have major changes in Week 13, though. Every team is playing their rival. It's going to be a huge week. Even when a team is really bad and you expect a team like, say, Ohio State to take care of business against Michigan, that's when the poor team like Michigan is able to play their best to try to defeat their rival. And they always play the best no matter what. So we're going to probably see a few upsets from the top teams that are playing weaker teams. So despite the 4 ranked versus ranked matchups, expect more than 4 ranked teams to lose this Saturday. Remember, the action starts Thursday in the Egg Bowl as Ole Miss plays Mississippi State and continues all the way through Saturday night. We've got a handful of games Friday, and then the big ones come on Saturday throughout the afternoon and into the night. So it's going to be a very, very eventful week of college football. This is going to shape how the playoff committee looks at these rankings. It's going to give us the best idea of who the top 4 is going to be going into the conference championship weekend next week. And so it's going to be a very, very exciting week. So keep your eye out for that. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.